Welcome to the Bone Palace. I'll be your guide today, a rather weary court historian, I'll admit, as we dig into this explainer of our kingdom's darkest, most rigid hours. We're going to be unpacking a truly grim Gothic fable today, a sort of Nietzschean parable about order, chaos, and the total suppression of the human spirit. So get comfortable and prepare to journey deep into the damp catacombs of a kingdom built entirely on repression. We're going to uncover the chilling, specific methods they used to extinguish the fire of imagination.
I've spent decades blowing the ancient dust off these records, documenting the cruelty of the empire's rigid structures. The rulers of this realm experienced a profound collapse, leaving us to look back at a society covered in a suffocating mist, masking the jagged architectural bones of a kingdom completely obsessed with the status quo. They built a world of absolute certainty, and as they put it, they sat waiting for the end of the world as we had built it. We witnessed a funeral for our certainty. Today, we're going to examine exactly how they enforced this suffocating order and why it ultimately crumbled.
Section 1. The Architecture of Fear. The World as It Is. Let's get right into it.
So, what exactly is this architecture? Well, it's not just regular masonry. It's a structural containment system, a literal fortress of ancestral vaults built out of walls of exclusion and fear. The High Priest and the High Inquisitor designed this specifically to suppress human potential. You see, these architects viewed any rough sketch of a commoner's dream, any tiny spark of a world that could be, as a messy design. To them, imagination was literally a poison of dissent. It had to be trapped, right? Immobilized in a permanent tomb of cold stone, demanding absolute, rigid adherence to their stained blueprints. Moving on to Section 2, the Liturgy, Agents of the Apollonian Extreme.
To enforce this chilling stone silence, the High Inquisitor summoned 3 highly specialized knights, and this slide brilliantly lays out their methodical devotion. It's basically a chilling, sequential assembly line of despair. Step 1, the gesture identifies the dreamer. Step 2, the bard prunes away their hope. And step 3, the shadow entombs their potential forever. It was a perfectly designed system to ensure that the vibrant branches of heroism were forcefully grafted right back onto the twisted roots of the world as it is.
Section 3, the Jester Knight and the Trap of the Gilded Reflection. So, the Jester Knight was basically the vanguard. He danced through the bustling carnival streets, draped in his motley, specifically hunting for commoners who were blinded by the intoxicating nectar of their own pride. And his tool? The cracked mirror. He didn't need brute force, you see. He used a psychological, narcissistic trap. He'd literally hold up this cracked glass he found in the mud to reflect the dreamer's own vanity right back at them. It melted their fire of imagination into cold, heavy iron shackles from within. He essentially turned a person's own ego into the very cell that imprisoned them. Pretty sinister, right? All right, Section 4, the Bard Knight, the Weight of History. Now, if the jester trapped your ego, the Bard Knight went straight for the soul. He wasn't your typical singing bard. He acted more like a high priest of memory, a kind of perverted gardener. He didn't prune dead wood to help a tree grow. He pruned the vibrant branches of hope to keep the tree permanently stunted. His tool was horrifying, the dull lead lute. By striking these heavy, dissonant chords on it, he dissolved any royal pretense into a suffocating mist of guilt. He forced his subjects to bear the thorns of the past, their historical prejudices, as an actual physical weight against their lungs, immobilizing them with the bitter fertilizer of their own history.
Section 5, the Shadow Knight and the Ritual of Silent Masonry.
And finally, we get to the Shadow Knight. He'd emerged from the skeletal belly of the earth, wearing a silk mask to hide this venomous grudge he held against anyone who dared to envision a world as it could be. His weapon was the hidden trowel. Using this tool of darkest masonry, he would guide his targets away from the joyful festival lights and deep into the pitch-black recesses. Preying on their grudges, he'd methodically, and with terrifying swiftness, pile heavy stones around them, burying their heroic silhouette alive until literally nothing remained but stone silence.
As your historian, I absolutely have to stress how these distinct methods interlock to enforce the exact same architecture of fear. It's a towering monument to absolute order. Just look at the duality here on the slide. Side A, the jester uses the internal weight of vanity to trap you from within, making iron shackles out of your own pride. The bard bridges the gap with ancestral guilt. And then, side B, the shadow uses the external weight of physical stone, exploiting grudges to permanently entomb you from the outside.
Pride, guilt, grudge. Internal, temporal, external. It was an inescapable system engineered to totally extinguish any chaotic Dionysian fire. Okay, Section 6, The Tattered Ledger, a blueprint of chaotic becoming. And here's where the fable takes a massive turn. My records show their absolute certainty was completely shattered. The Shadow Knight found something buried deep in the damp catacombs, a tattered ledger. This wasn't some rigid blueprint. It was a record of chaotic becoming, a shifting, unpredictable energy that flat-out refused to follow the straight lines of the Inquisitor's stained plans. As the text here notes, it was a messy design that mocks our masonry. And suddenly, the Jester's bells went silent. The Shadow Knight clutched his trowel like it was a useless relic. They were terrified. Because you can't put iron shackles on a shifting shadow, and you definitely can't wall in a fire.
Section 7. The Diatribe of the Architects. The Collapse.
So let's jump to the high-vaulted royal halls, where the sudden appearance of this unpredictable ledger sparks a bitter, theatrical climax between the architects themselves. The High Inquisitor lashed out first. He realized with just absolute venomous dread that the vibrant branch of this Dionysian fire was growing despite all their methodical devotion to the status quo. He screams at the priest's enforcers, blaming them for failing their perverted gardening and allowing this poison of dissent to just completely bypass their massive walls of exclusion.
But the high priest wasn't having it. He fired right back. "Do not speak to me of walls, you whose heart is a fortress of fear." He fiercely defended his life's work of guiding subjects into those damped catacombs and crushing them under the thorns of the past. He pointed out the true terror here. This rough sketch of human potential was completely new. Their order was faltering because this sketch simply refused to be immobilized by cold iron shackles. Their entire worldview was fracturing right in front of them.
And then we get this moment of devastating clarity. Tracing the shifting ink of that tattered ledger, the High Inquisitor confessed something completely unbelievable. He admitted, "My finger traced the shifting ink, and for a moment I felt the creative spark of a world as it could be." He caught a glimpse of a world that didn't need his heavy masonry and vaults at all. The very thing he'd spent his entire life trying to entomb had somehow infected him.
Finally, the high priest conceded the fatal flaw in their darkest masonry. He said, "The soul is not a stone to be laid, but a fire that consumes the mason." They found themselves sitting on a throne that had morphed into a cage. They had successfully built a permanent tomb, sure, but now they could only sit in their vaulted silence, bracing for the roar of flames they could no longer extinguish. Their grand architecture of fear had definitively, spectacularly failed.
As I close this weary historian's record for you today, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. Take a look at the question on screen. What fire of imagination do you harbor that the world's heavy masonry is trying to entomb? We all face our own jesters, bards, and shadows out there, forces trying to use our pride, our past, and our grudges to wall us in. Will you let the world as it is lock you in a stone silence? Or will your own messy design, your chaotic becoming, ultimately consume the mason? Thank you for exploring the catacombs with me today. Keep that creative spark burning.